Hey, hello, friends. Thanks for stopping by another episode of the old Vinyl Village Garage. I know I haven't said that for a while, but this is a vinyl village I live in. This is a garage, clearly, and this is where we make things happen. And what's happening here behind me is a 1969 fiber convertible resting happily on its side because we built this little thing to flip it up, make more floor space, because that's the goal of this channel. Make things happen in a small space because we all don't have a large facility with all the tooling or spacing to make this happen. So we have to be methodical in what we're doing, use our space wisely, and get things done. But it doesn't mean you can't get great results or a really nice car when completed. So as you can see here behind me, a nice subframe completed. That was a previous video going through and building a subframe and assembling it and getting all the little things taken care of. But as you can tell, something's missing: an engine and a transmission. That's what we're going to probably get into here today. I'm going to go ahead and assemble the engine because I can see lots of parts over here. Not quite sure exactly where to start. Eeny, meeny, I don't know kind of thing. Well, that's what I'm going to show you. Building an engine. Like I said, it's a long block, so the crank and rods and pistons and the head's already installed, but that doesn't mean there's a lot of things that you don't want to know about, especially building a Pontiac, but it still pertains to any other engine. Cleanliness is important and some other things, but we're going to get that engine assembled, hopefully today, and get it primed and painted in preparation to put here on the subframe. All right, ta-da, and here in all your glory, you see here is a 1969 Pontiac 400, perfect for a Trans Am convertible clone. You know, a better power plant of 69 400s that would have been in that car. Now, these heads would not be correct for a Ram Air Trans Am. They were going to look the part, the right size casting and style for the exhaust ports. They changed the designs of those over the years. And they even changed the location of some of the bosses, but these are 1969 heads. Just a smaller valve, so it's not going to get the horsepower of the original Trans Am, but the owner says, hey, I've got this 400 engine. I have the heads. I've already had them worked over. Can we use it for the car? Why not? Let's save a few bucks, put this thing in here. Like I said, it was already assembled, so I'm not going to redo what was done, but I'm going to give it a once-over visual, make sure it looks correct or looks good, because I'm going to put this in a car that I'm going to assemble. I'd like to make sure it's going to be the best that it could be, but I did not build this engine. Maybe in one of the next episodes, hopefully soon, I'll be building a complete Pontiac engine from beginning to end and showing you that, but nonetheless, I'm going to show you the likes, dislikes, ups and downs, pros and cons, just kind of get into this engine and show you what's going on. Let's dig into this bad boy here. 400 Pontiac overhead valve pushrod style engine. All manufacturers use this, about 1950 something, whatever. Still current. They're still using pushrod style motors, engines. Is that right? The block itself, like I said, is bone stock as for deck height, and the heads were not milled. And why I bring that up? One thing that Pontiac did is, well, it's not adjustable valve train. Their nut does not have a locking style nut. So how do you keep it adjusted, you say? You don't. You torque that bad boy to 20 foot-pounds. Now, you can get away with that if you have the original block, original heads, no modifications to the deck surfaces, and your camshaft is not an extremely high-lift cam, basically bone stock. You typically can get away with just running down all these rocker arms, torquing to 20 foot-pounds, and walking away. Now, adjustable valve train is ideal. It'd be something probably if you've modified the engine or changed the heads to off a different engine, you may have to go that route. But then you have to come up with some kind of a poly lock or locking nut system. That turns a whole other problem. Pontiac uses pressed in rocker studs, and then sometimes they're screwed in. The pressed in ones, well, you get a super high lift cam, they like to pull these studs right out of the head. So I wouldn't recommend that. Again, this is a relatively stock build, so this is going to be acceptable, but something to keep in mind if assembling a Pontiac engine. And one of the cool mods are if they're screw-in studs, you can change over to big block Chevy, and you can get all kinds of adjustable poly locks, I think, pretty cheap, and it's a lot more durable too. So that's a mod just to kind of let you know about. Let's get into the engine though. What I'm looking for, I guess this is assembled by somebody else. Look at the cam, covered and smothered in assembly lube. I like that. Cam lobes are probably one of the weakest things on an overhead push rod style engine. It likes to wipe the lobes out. Ask me, I know. I've done it a few times. So I like that. That's going to be good. Now the head bolts, I'm not probably going to check the torque on anything, but the thing you might want to do, sometimes the ones with studs, you may check the location of those. This is correct. These two studs, and even on the driver, there's a heat shield that goes over top of that manifold for the heat riser. So that's good. And you need to have one here on this side for a ground lug, for a ground strap. Sometimes it's here or here, but either way, I got a way to ground the engine out, so I'm going to call that acceptable and good. And what we're seeing here, though, I put the push rods in the engine. There's a couple things I want to show you, but how they were delivered to me, not my preferred method. All the rocker arms and push rods are thrown in a box. I like to leave at least the base of the rocker arm and little ball socket with the same rocker arm. Not that critical because you can't clock it the same, but just a preferred thing for me. And same with the push rods. I kind of like leave those kind of in the same spot. Again, the whole engine taken apart, not the end of the world, just me being kind of particular. Now I've got the rest of the parts laying out here. I'm going to start assembling this engine. These are my favorite bits and pieces. Those things are going to be really cool. Going to be a neat piece there. There's the timing covers. This engine only requires one, but let's say you bought it in pieces, right? Well, if you look from here over, there's a change in the style of the water pump. Look at the number of holes versus this one. These two are the same. This one's clearly different. 68 and older, you go this way. Lesser number of bolts. They had a little problem, I think, with cooling, so they added a different style of passages here from the water pump timing cover into the block. So this is the newer design. So 69 and up, use this style. 68 and older, use that style. They're not interchangeable unless you change everything over water pump and all. So just keep that in mind. So you're digging for your box of parts. This one has more bolts, like 9 bolts hold the water pump on. 11 total, but they call it 9 bolt, I think, so they refer to those as. But the reason I set these two side by side is they look the same, 100% interchangeable. If you get down to the details, look at this right here. The timing tab is different than this one. This one's pretty basic. 69 would have had this style timing cover on. So I've had this one laid out. I'm going to use that. This is a newer style casting. Work fine. But for visual purposes, we're trying to make the close as correct without going overboard on all the details and make it look like it's a real Trans Am. Now, I will not be buying one of the $5,000 alternators put on the car, but you get the idea. Do what we can within a reasonable budget. Let's get into here and get this engine assembled. I'm going to show you a few things when checking your valve train before final assembly. Let's talk push rods, right? Pretty basic piece of an engine. Hollow tube delivers oil to the rocker arm or the top of the engine. Then obviously follows the camshaft, push rocker arm, opens the valve. Well, okay, pretty simple device, but a few things you want to look at. The push rod, like I said, has to deliver oil through it. So you should be able to look right through those holes up to the right and see clean through every single one of them. Last thing you want is a restriction, then you're going to waste a rocker arm, cause a misfire, has engine failure. That's not good. The other thing to look for are these things like to bend, especially on Pontiac. I have wiped out many a push rods, probably because I probably over-revved it. I have no idea, but it happens. The way to find out the easiest way is to have a piece of glass, lay on a piece of glass and let it roll right across it. And if it has a wobble, junk it. Do not use that thing. But I like using this on the Pontiac here. Lay that thing in there and you can spin it. And you probably can't detect that one in the camera, but I'll get you up closer. This one here, it wobbles way out of whack. And this was with this engine to be installed. So this is why we're looking at these things. Let me show you these two push rods side by side. All right, again, I've got this kind of laying in the valve guide on the rocker, on the lifter. I can spin this thing. Look at this line on the block. No visual run out, just, of course, the assembly loop. I get to this one here, it's obvious. Watch that thing dance side to side. That guy, junk. Don't use that one. Even this one here has just ever so slight run out. Watch right here. You watch it change. So again, not going to use that one. So I have, fortunately, several Pontiac parts here in the old Vinyl Village garage. I have a couple extra push rods. Now I can spin that thing. Runs true. Runs true. I like it. And the other thing you also can do is when you have all the push rods sitting on a bench, smack them down. Make sure they're all the same length. The last thing you want to do is have different length push rods, especially on a non-adjustable valve train type of setup. So we'll go ahead and put some of the rocker arms on. I'll show you how this goes. All right, let's talk about this little valve train situation I talked about in Pontiac. Put a little assembly lube in all the points. A little ball socket is lubed up. Make sure the cam is not on the lift stroke, so the lifter is seated all the way. Then just start the nut, run it down there, kind of like you do on your adjustable valve train. And then what you'll want to do is find that 0 lash mark. You do this, you feel just a little drag on that push rod. Then we're going to see how many turns it takes to actually torque it to 20 foot-pounds. And right there, I just now have drag. So I'm going to use my big ratchet just so we get an idea where we're at. This is an angle meter gauge, right? So right now we're straight up. So 1, and hopefully less than 2. Okay, 1.5 turns. I'm there, and I can torque out 20 foot-pounds. So that tells me on this one, I should have no issues just running these down, tightening the 20 foot-pounds. All right, so now I'm going to proceed to go ahead and do the same thing, but I guess I don't know if I made that clear. So somewhere within the 1 to 2 range on the ratchet or number of rotations where you actually get it snug, you'll probably be just fine. Again, that's what Pontiac did. It worked great for years. if it's not a highly modified finish. So I'm going to go ahead and run all the rocker arms, put that on there. Then we're going to flip this engine over and show you the bottom side. Now, I guess something else to bring to your attention. Stamped rocker arms, they're okay to reuse parts and everything. But of course, inspect all your wear points for any kind of grooving or galling or damage. But as I was just sorting through the parts, let's see if we get the camera to focus on this. This one is not good. You see some really deep grooves worn into that side there, and it actually doesn't even make a nice circle any longer. So this one is not good. And here's the matching rocker arm that I dug through the pile. So that one's just not going to fly. It should have a nice, even mirror finish if it's a used one, a nice, clean circle. And the seat shouldn't have any gouging in it either. So I guess a visual inspection on these probably wouldn't be a bad idea to mention that to you if you're going to try to reuse them. Nothing wrong with using them, but you need to spend a little time looking at your parts. Now, something else I almost failed to mention, at least tell you on video. The ends of the push rods, we obviously inspected them for straight. Make sure you can see through them. There's no restrictions or blockage. But the ends need to be nice and polished and smooth. No pitting or galling, kind of like the rocker seats. You need to make sure those are good. You'll rub a hole right through that rocker arm. Almost forgot to mention that. Okay, valve train's all dialed in. Now, something else to keep in mind. Now, obviously, there's an oil galley that feeds all these lifters, which then pushes oil through the lifter up the rocker arm. Now, if a machine shop did a good job, they've cleaned those passages out. Now, checking here behind the timing chain, if you can look in here, it's kind of hard to see it, but there's a brand new little plug for the oil galley. These are hammered in similar to freeze plugs. Now, Pontiac likes to get something a little funny back here on the passenger side rear. If you look down inside here, you will see a square-headed oil plug right there. Sometimes that gets left out on Pontiac. Make sure that's in there. If the guys did their job right, they have to knock that out, which hides behind this plug here. So if you ever have to get to it, you got to knock that plug out, reinstall it. This one here, obviously installed and correct. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. And the other thing here, a little thing back here on this corner of the block, you say you're going junkyard hunting, and you can't find the casting number, maybe it's covered with sludge or just covered up, you can't see it. On Pontiac 400, there's not the big pyramid. On the 350s, 455s, anything else, there's this big old chunk of casting above this bolt hole. So if you're going junkyard searching, you're looking for a 400 block, check this, like I call it the little pyramid. The 400s don't have it. Kind of looks like this, but just a tall chunk of steel there. So I'm going to flip this thing over and look at the bottom. I got the engine all flipped over. You'll see right in front of your face right now is a windage tray. Pontiac put these on there. Some were full length, some were this side, and the later ones not at all. A lot of mixed feelings on whether you run a windage tray on a Pontiac or not. They serve a purpose. They actually keep the crank reduced amount of oil on them. But some of the negative things, the size of the drain hole. Some people feel these aren't large enough, so the oil actually puddles up inside here and causes the exact thing that you're trying to prevent, oil from being stuck on the crank. So you might enlarge these holes on a high-performance engine or leave it well enough alone. Just something to share with you. I typically do run the windage tray because the dipstick styles that I have, the windage tray supports the lower portion of the dipstick. Not a problem. You can actually upgrade it. There's a bolt-on style, kind of like these bolts here for the main cap, and it supports the lower part of the tube. So however you want to do it, windage tray or not, I leave them on there. That's the reason why I don't make a whole lot of race cars. I just like to have a nice cruiser. So now do your own homework on that. But this one has it on there. Something I also like to see, a little tack weld on the pickup screen on the oil pump. I've had these fall off before and suck up debris and lock up the oil pump. That's a bad day. You don't want to do that. Ask him about it sometime. Oil pan. This is the oil pan that came with the car. It needs a little bit clean. It got some oil on it. But the front drain plug is what I call it. That would be correct in my books, what I understand, for 1969. Many times I've seen these cars that are numbers matching all original 69 Trans Ams and the drain plugs on the side of the oil pan. Now, I can't guarantee that. That's an exact detail. But everything I've ever seen and understood, 69 should have the front drain plug style. So we're going to work on getting that gasket area cleaned up. We're going to clean up the timing cover gasket, put the timing cover on first, and then we're going to drop the oil pan. And while we're looking at the timing chain, just double checking things. I'm going to put some eyes on it. But I have a dot here. Remember, this engine is upside down right now. A dot at the 6 o'clock spot on the cam, and then a dot on the crankshaft here at 12 o'clock. So if you were to draw a straight line, the center line of the crank, those two lines was the center line here with the bolt here on the camshaft. So this is definitely in time and ready to be installed. As for, I don't need to mess with that. That looks good. Our fuel pump lobe here moves nice and free, so I'm going to call that good. Block surface looks real clean. And David, this is your engine. This is a 400. Something else I just noticed, though, unfortunately, these heads don't have the end provisions for the bolts for our exhaust manifold, so I'm going to have to do some drilling and tapping, hopefully, so I can then install all the bolts for those manifolds. I really like to have all the bolts. They did this on some engines. They don't even have, this is like a nice flat boss, so it should be pretty simple to drill. But some of the other engines don't even have that boss there, so you can't drill the holes. So in this case, I'm going to have to drill these out and tap that so I can make sure those manifolds stay in place. But we're working to get that timing cover put on now. All right, get ready to install the timing cover. And a few things I want to bring to your attention. Alignment dowels or sleeves. Make sure they're in place. Pontiac uses these 2 sleeves. Again, engine's upside down, the bottom 2 bolt holes. Now, I've seen these missing before, and some people get creative with a beer can and create a new one. That's an option, of course. Other manufacturers use a dowel, and other manufacturers tell you to install the timing cover and the balancer, then let the balancer center the cover, then torque down the bolts. Well, Pontiac uses these. Inspecting the bolts, these are the studs. Studs go in the middle position. So again, this is upside down. Bottom 2 bolts, studs, and bolts. That bolt hole is good. This is good because there's a stud. That one appears to be nice. I see threads. I see a complete, total nightmare. This hole is garbage. That's a problem. It's going to slow down work state. I need to repair that before I can put the timing cover on. When we get into, if I get that fixed, we're talking about, do you put sealant on gaskets? I was taught in school, no, you don't put sealant on if you have a gasket. But let's be honest, this is pitted up a little bit. So I'm going to put a little bit of RTV where I put that gasket on. But I got to find a way to get this thing here fixed. That's going to be our problem right now. All right, update on this hole that's kicking my butt. If you look here closely, you'll see the hole looks like a little bit elongated or tapered. Well, that's the center where the hole's supposed to be. They've got it drilled off center so far that it's actually elongated the hole. So no matter what I do at this point, I'm going to need a helicoil or a time serve or something to repair the threads. The problem is when they drill that thing off center, they broke an easy out in, this way this clock, 12 o'clock spot up the top. So it's got a chunk of hardened steel up there. None of the drill bits I have are going to touch it. They aren't going to get anywhere near. So what I've been doing here, busted out the Dremel with a carbide bit. Slowly but surely, I am eroding that chunk of hardened steel out of there. Once it's gone, I can bore the hole larger and then go back with some kind of a thread repair. But note this up, if you're going to drill a hole to remove a broken fastener by using a piece of hardened metal by like a tap or an easy out, make sure you get the hole centered, because at this point, it is like a keyway locking that bolt into place, so it's never going to come out. And of course, that's why I twisted off on them. So I'm going to keep working on that, hope that I can get that thing dug out of there and move forward on getting this thing assembled. Now, if you look deep down that bore, I finally punched through. That pocket is about 1.5 inches deep in this block. You see a little hole right there? I have finally bored through whatever that hard metal chunk was. So now I just keep cleaning this hole out, and then I'll come back with a drill. Like I said, if you look here carefully, you'll see this little indentation we put in it. My dad had a way we centered up the timing cover to make sure we're centering that hole. You can see how far off we are. But I'm probably going to have to bore that entire hole that big, but straight on that path, and come with some kind of a thread repair. But good news is, I think we're going to be okay. I have punched through finally. Look there, I see a nice opening. You can see the step about halfway in there. I'm not quite sure what's off center, but that whatever that material is pretty soft. So I think I am safe now to go ahead and get my thread repair system going on here. I think I'm gonna go. I don't have anything here at the house. I gotta go to the getting place to find something. But look at this. I now have something I can work with. I have a hole cleaned out of whatever hardened material that was in there. All right, now that we got that bolt debacle all figured out, but look at this nice, clean, threaded hole now. Now I can install this timing cover and secure it well. And we're gonna put just a thin coat of RTV or silicone here on the block face. So a little pitting on it. I need to clean it real good first, but we're gonna do that. I don't, like I said in the past, if I was taught if it has a gasket, no sealant, but let's be honest, they're not expecting a 50-year-old block that has some pitting on it. So we're gonna put a little stuff in there, tighten it up. Now that I have this hole, I know it'll be nice and secure and work really nice. So that was about 3 hours of my life that I won't get back, but necessary. This thing is almost all done. I hate to have scrapped it out for something like that. So anyway, I'm gonna keep moving forward. I'll get this timing cover installed. I don't think there's anything out of the ordinary. I think I kind of showed you that. Then we'll drop the oil pan on. We'll wrap this thing up for today. Timing cover installed. I think that's pretty cut and dry and self-explanatory, but it's something I want to bring to everybody's attention. These little bushings that come in most of the engine gasket sets reside in here. Normally the old ones are hard and brittle. They actually just crumble away. This thing's just cracking as I fold it up, so it's junk. That's not going to seal too good. This is one of the things that's an overheating problem. Make sure these are in good shape. These like to rust out. This is made out of steel. This is aluminum, but this is steel. That whole flange likes to rust out. Problem then is the water doesn't flow through the water pump properly, so we need to make sure these are pliable and soft. They snap into place like that. You put them both in, and then our water pump divider plate goes in place, and those seal against the backside of this area here on that divider plate. So that was one of the things I want to make sure. Check the rubber bushings and make sure these metal sleeves aren't deteriorated. Other than that, throw the water pump on. Oh, actually, one more thing. Water pumps. Cast impellers are more ideal. Some are made out of stamped steel. They don't seem to be as nice. But a cast impeller is good. And the other thing you want to do is check your spacing on the water pump in relationship to the impeller. This one's a bit excessive. You really want that a lot closer, almost to the point where that thing is almost touching. You can tell I have quite a bit of space in there. So take a body hammer and slowly work this in a circle until it actually almost touches. Because remember, we still got to put a gasket in there. So I'm going to work on hammering this down now with my body hammer and get that closer. That's going to help improve the cooling system flow and help prevent overheating issues. So something I want to bring to your attention. Okay, a few hits there with my little body hammer, and check out that spacing now, probably a 1/16 of an inch. And of course, make sure it still spins. Like I said, I still have a gasket up in there, so I could go a little closer if I wanted to, but that's a lot better than that 1/4 inch where the heck we had before. Looks a whole lot better. So now I'll go ahead and stack the gaskets and install the water pump. And what we're talking about, this is the bolt that we were doctoring up. I was able to torque that down. We should. Look, it squeezed out my sealant. I was actually get that thing to pull up tight. So I am not concerned about thread strength or anything. That's going to work fine, and I don't have to worry about a leak anymore. That's what happens for putting a Pontiac engine in. I didn't get quite as far as I'd hoped, but that's a timing curve. I put a delay on things, but I've got it doctored up. We'll keep moving forward, get this thing together, get it ready for paint. I got the transmission problem solved. You'll be seeing that here. I'll show you a little tidbit, but I'll be able now to find a turbo 400 transmission for our project. So I've got all the drive line components lined up finally. So anyway, I'll grab the camera while I'm working on those items. Definitely appreciate you following me on the journey, and thank you for watching. Please subscribe. I wanted to see this thing hit 10,000. That'd be just kind of a little personal goal. But definitely appreciate the guys every week checking out what we're doing here. I know it doesn't happen without you, and I appreciate you following me. Great questions. I love seeing your guys' projects. Keep sending me those pictures. And of course, I will definitely keep the camera rolling, sharing everything that I can with you and help make your process of building your car easier, to take some of the doubt out of it. So nonetheless, appreciate you following me on the journey of the Mockingbird, and I hope to see you all next time. Okay, and the solution to that transmission problem resides right in this thing here in all of its glory. What you're looking at is an actual 1969 GTO. It is a 242 VIN, surprisingly, but obviously lots of rust issues. I don't have much left of the front sheet metal. The fenders were basically just crumbling away to nothingness, but it does have a turbo 400 transmission, which is original to this car. It is a Pontiac engine, but it's a 1970 350. And the really cool part is my life's going to be real easy. Engine mount here, engine mount there, not even close. It's just kind of laying in here. So I'm going to be able to rip that transmission engine out as an assembly real quick and get that transmission off the back. That's one of the reasons I bought this car, and a couple other small parts. I need the glass out of it, a few other things inside the car that were still salvageable. It does have a disc brake setup, power disc brake, so I'll be probably pilfering those parts. But as for the rest of the car, I have a title. I will be selling it, but there's not much left to lay it all out there, to be honest with you. And of course, this was a vinyl top car. The chrome trim is actually in decent shape, so I'll definitely happily sell it to somebody if somebody's interested in it. These corner pieces are a little spotted, but I think they would polish up and look okay. But the rest of the stainless looks really nice. But as you can tell, advanced rust on this thing. It's just probably not worth saving for me, but someone else might actually want to try to save it. But it's kind of beyond something that I want to get into. Like I said, I bought it for parts. I bought it for the transmission, bought it for glass, and a couple other pieces. And inside the trunk here, I did have hideaway headlights. Most of those components are still here. Even the switch and the dash is here. So I'll be keeping that for my collection. But check out the trunk floor, or lack thereof. But even the trunk jamb, she's just rusted. It's just, unfortunately, kind of a dead car. But I do have a title for it. I will be offloading it once I finish stripping the parts out. So basically, you'll be buying a 1969 GTO body shell. Won't be much left in it by the time I'm done. And there isn't much left of it anyway. Let's check out the floor pans. Nothing. She's just tired. I'll probably be keeping the dash of it because I don't have a cluster for my car. So
I'll be keeping those items. And I'm hoping this headlight switch is working with the vacuum switch on the back side, but we'll find out as I tear into it. But right now, we're going to find the easy way to get that thing ripped out of here.